Okay, what's up? Dylan Conrad here, Metabolic AF, and I got my coach on here, Charlie Johnson. He's jacked, he's tan, he runs two seven-figure companies. Um, he's my idol. And if you guys have come in, if you're a client and you've come into the program in the last, I think like 8 months, 10 months I've been with
Yeah,
you,
it's been a while.
you can thank Charlie because he's given me the systems at play to help everyone. So yeah, Charlie, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure. And I think the plan is to give everyone as much value today in terms of how to lead a high performance lifestyle. Because I'd say one of the things that has really been my mission is to prove people wrong. Because a lot of people say you can't, I don't know, like you can't be in great shape and have a successful
Yeah,
business. You can't be in great shape, have a successful business and travel.
yeah,
You can't do everything. Whereas like the reality is you can, but you just need to have the right systems and the right thought process in place, and then you can have the life you really want.
yeah. And if you guys are listening to this and not watching it, like you can't see Charlie's biceps. This guy's like massive. He's shredded. You compete, right? You compete in classic
Yeah, I
physique.
competed like 18 months ago. I probably will again at the end of this year as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think systems is the big overlying, and I want to have you on specifically because, like, dude, you're in phenomenal shape. Um, you're working a ton. You have two different businesses. I have trouble running one. So it's like, yeah, I guess I wanted to ask you, like, what are the systems you have in place? I guess what does your day-to-day look like, first of all, and how do you fit in like good eating and good training?
Um, the fitness side I actually find is the foundation. So this is the most important thing I say to everyone listening to this. I got good at business because I got good at fitness first. And
Yeah,
fitness was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I understood discipline. I understood the importance of being organized in terms of eating at certain times, need to train at
yeah,
certain times, and actually having a plan as in like a routine I'm going to follow or a nutrition plan.
yeah.
Um, and basically, what I do is, and what I did at the start, and what I do now is, I build my life around my training and my nutrition. So, what does that look like in practical sense? So, if I look at today, for example, I woke up a bit earlier than usual. I got up at 5 a.m. I did some work for maybe an hour and a half. I can go into some biohacking and weird stuff that I do as well. I then did some like cardiovascular work downstairs for 30 minutes. There's a gym in my building. I watched like business stuff to learn whilst I'm doing that. So I'm like multitasking. I come up backstairs, eat breakfast, and I'll do some more work, and then I go and train for like an
Yeah.
hour. Um, all my food is like meal prepped, is like from a company at the gym, so I don't cook anything. Like respectfully, cooking isn't a great use of anyone's time. So ideally, I would, if you can afford it, having someone else prepare your meals for you and it's like measured and weighed is done. One thing I've actually done recently as well, I have a coach who coaches me for fitness in terms of nutrition and supplementation and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
About a week ago, I actually started working with a trainer here in Dubai who's really good as well, to push me to like the next level in terms of like making me work harder. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing that I didn't even realize happened with this, one I loved, is that decision fatigue eliminated. I don't have to think. I turn up, he tortures me, I go home. That's it. The sessions are also shorter because I can push so much harder, so much quicker,
Yeah.
that I'm saving like an hour and a half a day.
Yeah.
So, like when you start to stack these things up, it makes a big difference. And I think one thing people don't really realize is that the amount of time they're losing in their life by doing pointless stuff they shouldn't be doing. So,
Yeah.
if you make reasonable money, you shouldn't be doing the cleaning in your house yourself. You
Yeah.
should have someone cleaning the car. You should have someone who probably cooks your food. Um, and the secret for this is like working out what's your hourly rate. So if you work out how many hours you work over a year, for example, like a week, times that
Yeah.
by a year, work how much you make per year, divide it by the hours, give you how much money you make, right, per hour.
Yeah.
Basically, anything that's like half or a fifth of that, like you want to be delegating away. So you look at like cleaning, cooking, basic stuff you probably don't want to do anyway. And I think
Right.
too many people, in particular in like British culture where I'm from, are too proud to have someone do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of stuff you said there, I want to string pull on everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But the first thing was so what time do you wake up and what does your biohacking look like?
Normally I tend to get up about 6:30. Some reason today I woke up at like 5.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've done recently is I've bought a red light therapy unit. It was maybe like $1,500. I literally put in my, sounds weird. I sit in my pants doing work and I have the red light therapy fucking unit on me next to me. But I look for things that I can stack on top of themselves that take no time, right? So like
Yeah.
red light therapy is really good for mitochondrial function, improving cell health, skin health, like longevity, all type of stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's no stress for me to press the on button and sit with it next to me. So I will
Right.
do that. Um, when I first wake up, I'll take like a cognitive supplement list, which would be depends how hardcore I'm going on the day. If I have like a day where it's nuts, I will microdose something which is called modafinil, which if anyone's seen the film Limitless, not health advice to take this. I would take like 25, 50 milligrams of that. The whole
Yeah.
tablet's 200, so it's like small dose. I would take cytocholine, L-carnitine. I take lion's mane, and then another supplement called PQQ. And these are all just like supplements to get my brain really going. And then I also
Yeah.
have another peptide supplement that's sometimes used, which is called like Semtex, is like a nasal spray.
Okay.
Um, so like all these things are actually one more. It's called pregnenolone, which is like a dissolvable tablet you put in your mouth,
Yeah.
and like they all work on different pathways to improve memory, how quickly your brain fires, like mental sharpness, and I naturally find I sometimes struggle to focus. So the more I can like be productive and dial myself in, that helps. And one big thing I say makes a big difference for everyone as well is your work environment. We
Yeah.
actually joked before this that Dylan's moved his office around. I've moved mine around. If you want to be highly productive, that starts with your environment. So
Yeah.
like, how's your computer set up? Is your like this chair I'm sitting in? I got imported from the UK because I didn't like the chairs in Dubai. Like, make your environment you work in comfortable and you like, and you'll perform better in that place.
Yeah.
So like, that's really like the basic things I look at, and then there's some other things we go into that I do later on in the day and other days.
That's legit. So you have a whole list, and I'll try to put it in that. I think you have a lead magnet. So like,
Yeah, yeah, I do.
hey,
I can
more
start
leads.
to.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
But yeah. So that's it's funny because I have taken modafinil because I have ADHD,
yeah.
quote unquote, whatever, diagnosed. But I was on Concerta, and they moved the doctor's like, oh, have you heard of modafinil? I'm like, no. It's an anti-narcoleptic, I guess. But it's for, focus, like the side effect is like it helps you focus and like stay alert,
Oh, it's wildly good.
Yeah. The thing is, there's like 5% of the population. I'm actually allergic to it, that are allergic to it.
Oh shit.
I'm one of
Okay.
those 5%. Yeah. So like I did it and I was like, why am I getting like allergies every time I take this? And I went to my doctor and he's like, have you been taking the Dafnol? I'm like, yeah, but it's like every time for whatever reason I get like congested. He's like, oh, you might be allergic to it. So I took it for a while and then anyway, side tangent. But so that's a legit. Have you noticed how long have you been doing it that way, first and foremost? And have you noticed
Um,
like any effect?
so I ripped off most of this protocol from a guy called Alex Kickel, and I on my
Mm,
fitness podcast, The Shred the Show, we go into this a lot and a lot about peptides and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I would say I've noticed a pretty big difference from that. One thing I was doing before as well to try and like make myself smart, which I've stopped, is when I take this concoction, I also would then use the brain training game called Elevate. It's actually quite fun, but it's
Mhm.
basically to make you smarter. I used to do like a couple of rounds of that as well, just to try and like challenge my brain first thing in the morning. The last thing I would say that's really important, I would say for people for the morning protocol is like, and one thing I've noticed, I've tried to stop my computer is I try and close all the windows when I finish work at the end of the day. So I don't have WhatsApp open, I don't have email open, Slack, because what will come in is I'll walk in the morning and I'll see like WhatsApp like message from someone, and my
Yeah,
head spun into some bullshit that I didn't want
totally.
to deal with. So
Yeah.
it's like, start your day intentionally, and that way you can be more productive, right? So like today, like tonight, I'll write down, okay, these are the two, three things I need to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
When you wake up, don't go looking for messages and things first, because you then become reactive rather than proactive, and then the world controls you rather than you control your world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I go in and out of those, I do
Mm.
really good and have those like, oh, I'm my 2 to 3 things. Here's what I'm gonna focus on. Here's like my day, and that's how I'm gonna start it. And then there'll be like weeks or months at a time where I'll just be like getting pulled into Vox or Slack or whatever it is, and like all this bullshit that I shouldn't be dealing with. It's kind of messes your mindset up, especially if you're doing so much during the day. And I know obviously that's what you are. You have so many different hats on. How do you kind of like maintain that routine?
Um, that's a phenomenal question. So the best thing I actually find is to structure the week so that you're trying to wear one hat predominantly on that day. So like,
Mm,
what does that look like? So for me, for example, on Mondays, I'll generally do in our businesses team meetings and training team members and like reviews and stuff like that.
yeah.
Monday is like a meetings day.
Okay.
Um, Tuesday, I tend to do like fulfillment stuff in like the mastermind more, and I'll focus maybe more on that. Wednesday will generally be a content day, so I'll film podcasts, other social media stuff that we need to do. And then Thursday, Friday tends to become a bit of a blur. And Friday morning I do like our finances and I look at all the numbers and stuff. And Thursday just tends to fill with meetings and things like that. So I try and have like a clear structure generally of what I'm trying to do every day. Whereas like one of the big mistakes I see a lot of people making is they're trying to jump task to task, but completely different tasks. So like
Yeah.
say you run a business and you sell stuff on the internet, right? So you're going to try and you're doing a sales call, then you're trying to make content and you're trying to like coach someone. It's like, no, no, no. Like you need to do batch things together. So like you're in the zone for that thing and
Mm.
then you'll be way more productive.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I mean, because like my days are like taskless, like jumping a
Mm.
million different things, going to sales calls, taking care of Instagram, doing one post. And instead of it's like really batching it. For any like I guess executives out there that, working 9 to 5 family and just kind of having trouble balancing it all, like where would you kind of start with that type of person?
The best thing I would say, because I used to be that person. So
Yeah.
6 years ago, I was a real estate agent in the UK, and I used to work 8 a.m. till 6:30. I had an hour commute each way, and I was training, running my fitness business, and all that type of stuff. So I understand the challenges with that. If I was in that position now, the best thing I would actually suggest is you get up earlier. You go to the gym as soon as you get up. It's done. You then go to work. You do your work day, and then the evening is like family time and do whatever you want. So
Yeah.
the secret to that is two things, and this is what I found. One is you need to pack your bag and all that stuff and like food for work the day before.
Yeah.
So you literally just wake up, get out of bed, put your clothes on, and off you go. You go to the gym. Like if you haven't got any of that laid out, it's going to be problematic. So like, like how we talked about having the task ready for the next day. It's the same
Hmm.
thing. The success tomorrow is dependent about how you prepare today. So
Mm.
like having everything ready for your next day is the most important thing. And then having like a routine and regimen. So like one of the big misconceptions most people really don't get is that the more structure you have in your life, the more freedom you have because you can fit more things in and you can build your life around what you want to do. And then you're also not getting stressed in terms of like not doing the things you should be doing. Like structure actually equals freedom, whereas most
Yeah.
people think like structure creates imprisonment.
Yeah, absolutely. What if someone starts feeling like on that way, like they are feeling a little imprisoned? You know what I mean? Like they are feeling like, oh fuck, this is just mechanical now. Like I just, like I
Um,
need some breakaway.
so actually, I get that quite a lot, and
Me too.
I have a weird setup, right? So like, and I think you're probably similar. I think I probably have an HG as well. That I love routine. I love doing the same thing every day, but I also love traveling, which is the polar opposite of it. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do I like do this? So what I find intrinsically is probably every 8 to 12 weeks I get frustrated and stagnated. So I need to leave and go somewhere for a week. So I try and like break my year up by traveling and doing stuff like that. Um, but I would say for most people, if you're in that position, you're feeling imprisoned, is like think about tomorrow, if I could do anything I want, what would I like to
Yeah.
do? Or this week? And
Yeah.
that one thing, like schedule that into your structure. And then that one thing will bring like enjoyment. Because I think particular entrepreneurs I see, and I do this, I've got getting myself out the trap. We
Hmm.
do the entrepreneurial roulette of like, say, I'll go from Slack to like Facebook ads to like payment gateways to what, like just looking for something to do, right? And it's not like
Yeah.
we all do it. It's not productive, right? So
Yeah.
um, one of the most important things to understand is also Parkinson's law. So it's like the theory of constraint. If you actually narrow the amount of time you give yourself to do it and like actual
Get more
task,
done. Yeah.
get more done. Like if you
Yeah.
give yourself 4 hours, you can take 4 hours. But if you're only
Yeah.
allowed to do two, you have to try and get it done at that time.
Yeah. No, that's good. So you travel. Do you work while you travel, by the way?
Uh, yeah, not maybe not as much. So
Right.
I will do like one thing I like is the Pareto principle, so like 80-20 rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I notice that a lot when I travel is that sometimes business performs better when I'm working less because I think maybe I actually cause less problems. But like I just do the
Same.
20% of things. Yeah, like I do the 20% of things that I have to do that like no one else can do that matters. And also the beauty of this for anyone who's an entrepreneur is that when you travel, you get your best ideas
Yeah.
because you get different stimulation, your head's in like with different framework, you speak to different people, different perspectives, and you like things just come out of the blue that you wouldn't even thought of.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
favorite thing actually is I like sitting on the plane, looking out the window, just thinking. Like, so I don't like connecting to the Wi-Fi. I just want to like just let my brain just drift.
Yeah. No, I love that too. I mean, for me, it's very similar. Like when I'm on a vacation in a beautiful spot, and I'm just like kind of looking out. I tend to actually just go into my notes and just kind of like write out big picture. And it's really
Yeah.
helpful to just like pull away for a little bit. I don't. Yeah, I need. I think we all say like I need to travel more. But you were just over here, right? You were in the States. You were in
I was
Colorado.
in the US for 3.5 weeks. I was in Colorado and I was there for in Boulder and
For
Denver
the
and
N1.
Vail. Yeah, and
Yeah.
for the N1 training thing.
Yeah.
And one of the actual things I'd say to that is like one of the best things anyone can do in life, whether you're a trainer, an entrepreneur, or whatever,
Yeah.
is continue to learn. And even through the process of learning, you network and you meet other cool people in your industry.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that I think has helped me a lot is just meeting new people because you get different perspectives.
Hmm.
And then I try and take something from everyone because you can learn from everyone. And it's that's how you ultimately get the routine you want is like you're different than me, I'm different than you. Like everyone has a different things that works for them, but like you'll see what works with successful people, and if you start to try and mirror some of it, you'll find what fits your own routine really well.
Yeah. And I listened to your podcast a lot. I think even if you're not running a fitness business, I feel like if you're just running a business, there's so many good tools you could pick up. What is it? What is it?
Yeah, so
Physically
it's
jack?
the physically jacked and financially stacked podcast. If you put
It's good.
yeah, if
You
you
were
put
just talking
Charlie
about,
Johnson 7-figure scaling systems on YouTube, we talk
I'll
about
put in the
everything.
show notes. Yeah, I'll put in the show
Yeah,
notes. And you go on like wide topics, but you did a I don't know if he was like a mindset coach, John
yeah,
DeMartini.
yeah.
Is that where you
Uh,
picked up a lot of this stuff, or what did you kind of get from
I
there
was
that you
doing that
kind
before. I
of
think
okay?
the John D. Martini thing allowed me to look at life in a different perspective, maybe.
How
Because one
so?
of the most interesting things from that was that allowed me to see the positive in everything. So
Oh,
what do I mean by that? Is that um, by something bad happening, it's also allowed something good to happen, and everything basically in life is balancing itself out.
yeah,
And we often don't see that because we don't go looking for the balancing mechanism, if that makes sense.
yeah, totally makes sense.
Um, it's that analogy of like the grass is always greener, right? Or like I'll be happy when.
Yeah,
And like from someone who's made money online and built businesses and done this type of stuff, like I've always had that. I'll be happy when I make 50 grand a month. I'll be happy when I make 100. And like it never like you just add more zeros on and the numbers get bigger and nothing really changes until like you suddenly start to realize you're playing this game that never ends. And then you realize what you actually enjoy is the game itself rather than the end
yeah.
product.
The result. I think that's so analogous to like, well, first of all, that's the story of my life right there. It's
Mm.
like I'll be happy when, or I'll do this when. It's like I think as entrepreneurs, we're so future focused.
Mm.
But where was I going with that? I think yeah, I think that's so analogous to how we coach our clients too. It's like the more they focused on that end result and the more they get kind of like glued to the idea of where they want to be at the end and not on like the actual process, the shittier they tend to do. You know what I mean? Like every single time they're like they get frustrated or they get cute with stuff and it just always backfires.
Um, the thing that I would say to everyone listening to this is like, if you want to be walking down the beach with abs or looking great in a bikini in the summer, what you want to think about is the the habits that person would have and becoming that person and the way they act and think and the decisions they make rather than the way they look. Because if you learn to become that person in terms of the decisions they make every day, the body
Yeah.
is a byproduct of that.
Hmm.
And that's why I said earlier, like the way you do this easily is you set yourself in an environment where it's very difficult for you not to be successful. So like I said earlier, it's like, okay, I've got a gym in my building, I can do cardio. My food gets meal prepped. I'm now going to a gym and someone's abusing me for five times a week. I've got someone else who's like setting up my nutrition in terms of what I need to eat. I just turn up and I'm going to do well. So it's
Yeah.
like the easier you can like reduce friction by like working with a great coach with you, like you or any of our team, like the easier life becomes because it's just a
Yeah.
game of turning up and doing what you're told to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, I did want to ask about your routine because so you wake up and you do your red light therapy, you do
Yeah.
your cardio, and then you do a bulk of work, I know, and then you go to the gym after that, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
mid-morning. Has that and that's 5 times a week where you just get abused by another coach.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah.
And do they train you like N1 style, or how does that person train you?
Um, it's a bit, no, it's very different. It's like he's from like Eastern Europe and like it's almost like old school bodybuilding stuff, but very much like
10 by
time under
10?
tension. Yeah, it's hard. None of that stuff. Um, but yeah, it's like it took me 7 days to get over the leg DOMs last week. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but because it was the first time I did it. But I think that's one of the best things I'd say for everyone listening to this. Do something physically very, very difficult every day,
Preach.
and your life will be better. And
Yeah.
the other thing I'm doing, which anyone here listening to this can also do, I've started doing a lot of conditioning work on a rowing machine. So I'll do rounds of 500 meters. I'll do 10 rounds of 500 meters with a minute's rest. I'll wear a heart rate monitor and I try and a good time is like under 2 minutes of 500 meters. So I've got
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to get under like 150 consistently. But I like the heart rate monitor because there's a gamification of like how high can I get my heart rate up. That's a really important thing.
Speaking of doing something hard every day, you are you into cold therapy at all?
Um,
Cold plunge,
I like
cryo.
cryo. I don't really like cold water. I've done it before, but my personal opinion is that there's a lot of negative effects to that. And I think the positive thing is a
Yeah.
massive dopamine release, which is why you feel good. But I also think from a recovery standpoint, there's a big negative effect on your nervous system because it's a big shock.
Yeah.
Um, my personal opinion is I also think heat is better than cold for recovery.
Mm,
So I'll use a sauna maybe twice a week. Um, I prefer the heat to the cold because I prefer
yeah.
to promote blood flow than restrict it. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to have less of an impact recovery wise. I
Yeah.
like cryotherapy. Like again, there's somewhere like a minute from here where I can do it. And I do that now and then. And I think that has a lot of benefits.
Cold therapy is horrible for muscular hypertrophy, right? For muscle growth.
It's like complete catabolic, completely opposite.
Yeah.
So it's like, but this is what I find funny, right? Is where people are like, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym and train and like break down this muscle tissue and then do cold therapy. It's like the complete opposite.
Because they have one at my gym. Yeah. I just joined a new gym and they have I don't go to Golds anymore. I know you have your personal
Yeah,
feelings about Golds,
yeah,
but yeah, I was gone there for 2 years, but then I switched to over here in Equinox and they have two polar plunges and I've gone there on my off days. But I see people working out super hard and then they'll do like a cold plunge like right after. It's like, dude, you're just like negating everything that you just did in that session.
I think there's potentially some benefit if you were like a lot endurance athlete. So
Yeah.
like you were doing long runs, like anything like that. Yeah, 100%.
Basketball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're going to get a lot of joint inflammation. And I think there's
Yeah.
more value to that. But if your goal is aesthetics,
Yeah.
do I think that's the best thing to do? No, definitely not.
Well, it's interesting. Like everyone I talk to, 99% are like, I want to change my body composition. But then they kind of like backtrack in that and they're like, well, I know it's not about how I look and da da da. It's always that, and it's more about how you feel. Like, what's your kind of personal opinion on that?
Um,
Just like,
People aren't willing to really address the issue and do what it takes to get what they really want. And people are telling
mm,
themselves a lie. And it's easier for them to be sitting in their own prison of hell of like where all their lies live, that's okay, than actually deal with the truth of like, yeah, I actually really want to look like that and feel like that, but I'm not willing to like necessarily go through the process to get there. And what I would say to anyone is the same as building a body and building a business. It's really
Yeah.
shit and hard at the start, but when you get there, it's not that bad. Like
Yeah.
when you're in shape, it's relatively easy to stay in shape. When you
Yeah.
have a successful business, it's relatively easy to keep it going.
Yeah.
It's getting to that point that's generally the harder part, right?
Yeah. And then it's levels from there. Like you just started working
Mm.
with your guy 5 times a week. Like I'm
Mm.
sure that's like, you're like, oh, fuck, I have to go to the gym right now and train with
Yeah,
this
that
dude. It's
literally,
like,
I had fucking anxiety before training legs the other day. I was like,
but it's probably like that, it's probably it's like when you're starting something new and you're pushing to that next level, it's always shit in the beginning until you get used to it. And then you get used to it and then you're like, okay, well, what's next for me? Okay, that. Do you, by the way, I wanted to ask you, do you have it, for me personally, like I don't train with anyone, and if I do, it's always like my own workouts, and I train more N1 style, like tempos, failure sets, that
yeah.
type of thing. Do you have a hard time with someone else programming for you and pushing through that? How do you disconnect?
Um, I had to trust the person, which is why I've never had anyone here in Dubai do it before.
Yeah.
Um, so he actually does. You mentioned about tempos. That's one of the things he does a lot. That's why I couldn't walk
Okay.
last week because it was like 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. I'm like fucking like 15 reps
With a
later. Like,
metronome.
yeah, yeah. So it's like that. That's when someone's really good at something, then I will trust them. Like,
Yeah.
and I've watched him train a lot of people. He's got a great physique himself, competed at a very high level. Like, success leaves clues. Is like
Yeah.
you can tell when someone knows what they're doing. Like first session I did with him, I was like, yeah, he knows what he's doing. So it's
Yeah.
like, and it's also it's nice for me not to have to think. I just fucking roll with it.
Turn off. Yeah. It's like so much better at working off a program. I feel like a lot of people kind of come into the program that have worked with a coach before, or kind of know a little bit about fitness. It's really hard for them to kind of like disconnect and be, just be like, okay, cool. Like you just do it all. It's kind of like they try to get more involved with it. I think it's just kind of that mentor mentee communication, like you were talking
I,
about.
I think the biggest problem I see with everyone is they're not willing to try something new or just be like, if like, I'll just do whatever you tell me to. Like, okay, I'll just follow your lead, whether. Like,
Yeah.
and I've spoken about this before. It's like called the Zen beginner's mind, and that's
Yeah.
basically like when you're new to something, you'll just go with the flow with it. But problem is like people have enough knowledge to be dangerous apostrophe, so they think they know
Yeah.
everything, so they're not willing to try it. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I've been going to the gym for 20 years, so I'm not doing that. I was like, well, you've looked the same for the last 20 years, so maybe you should try what he's telling you, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. Have you, it's a great book, by the way, Zen Mind Beginner Guide. Have you read it
yeah,
before? So
no,
I,
no,
I,
no.
I have it. It's a great, it's a quick read. I think, Phil Jackson is, do you watch,
Yeah, yeah,
okay. So old Lakers coach, super into Buddhism and meditation and mindset stuff. But he wrote a book and then he referenced that book in his book, which I read. It's really short if you guys are interested in it. And I think if you kind of find yourself like me, getting stuck in kind of your ways and having a hard time kind of having more of a beginner's mind, phenomenal read. Zen Mind Beginner's Mind, also put in the show notes. But yeah, that whole approach is, if you want to have any growth, like you kind of have to be an open canvas almost, and just like go into like you don't know shit always.
yeah. And what I would say is like, you be like a sponge, but take from things what you want. So like,
Yeah.
take from this podcast and conversation what you find is most relevant or interesting to you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing of like, I've worked with loads of other trainers and coaches and whatever. I was like, yeah, I like this. I don't like this. Yeah, I like this. And like, you become an amalgamation of all the experiences of what you
Yeah.
find work for you. And that's how
Great
you
word.
ultimately get your own method to some degree.
Amalgamation. What a
Mm.
word. Great word, man.
But Harry
So
Potter.
Harry Potter. I dated this girl from Essex, and when I didn't know, I was like, oh, she's English, she's like sophisticated, super smart. And then when I told people from the UK that she was from Essex, like they would immediately just go into like a dumb joke, like, oh, they'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
did you hear about the girl from
Um,
Essex? She like da 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 da. I'm like, dude, is it that bad? But I guess it's like Jersey Shore out here.
yeah, yeah,
Not
100% it is.
not putting
That's a
anyone
good
in from the
comparison.
Jersey Shore, but my mom's actually from the shore back in the day. But what was I going with that? I wanted to ask you because I listened to one of your podcasts. I thought it was really, really cool. What drives you? Because obviously you're extremely driven, like in all aspects of your life, with your physique, with your businesses, with just kind of like becoming a better person, just everything. Like what drives you?
Um, I think this is the same as a lot of people who are like that. It's massive insecurity for maybe when I was younger, not feeling good enough, feeling like a failure. Probably aired with an element of a superiority complex to some respect, because
Yeah.
I have a belief I can go and do anything, can achieve anything I want. And then also like huge insecurity. You put the two together as like, I'm going to go and fucking do everything.
Yeah.
Um, which is good, but it's also something that I've had to, and still in the process of learning to control, because
Mm,
um, ultimately what you don't want to be is like, you climb the mountain, but then you're unhappy at the top of the mountain, which
yeah.
I see happens to some people. And I think that's also important, where you have to make sure, like, I mentioned about structure and routine, is like you actually enjoy what you do. So here's an example. I've started journaling a bit, like I just
Mhm.
asked myself questions, and one of them was like, what would I do today if I could do anything? And like it was like a Saturday, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna go to the beach, I'm gonna go for a nice fucking dinner, I'm gonna do whatever. I was like, basically what I'm doing anyway. So I was like, I literally have everything I want, like in terms of lifestyle. So it's like when you start to like realize that, you're like, well, I can just do anything then. And like just for me, this all becomes a game of like learning and playing the game. And it's just like leveling up the game as if you're playing Call of Duty to get to like prestige mode. It's just like it's a fun thing. And I just
Yeah.
enjoy it to that point. And I think when you get to that position, you also understand that the fun that comes with like building things and also helping other people. Like you have
Yeah.
huge influence in changing other people's lives, and
Mhm.
hopefully people listen to this, take value from this, and change other people's lives. A lot of people have helped me, and I feel that's my mission, to carry that on to other people, because
Yeah.
nothing makes me happier than when like someone messaged me like, you completely changed my life because I now earn X amount and like provide for my family. Like, fuck me, like it's insane. And after a certain point, like money doesn't bring you more happiness, but things like that give you more fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've definitely, yeah, worked with like, I've always worked with a coach since I started my own business in like 2012, 2013, when I was doing in-person training. And then 2020, that was like a whole new, I was in gym launch for a while, getting
Yeah,
coached by Hormozio as one of the early adopters. And I was just like blown away. And that like 10x my business. Pandemic hit, crumbled the ground, lost everything. And I was kind of like looking for that next, like, okay, what, like I worked with all these different online coaches. I really never got to where I wanted to in terms of, sorry, online coaching coaches, like if
yeah,
people help me in my fitness business, like yourself. And I never found it. And then I know I've been following you for a while. We used to do, I think I first found you on I think it was like Gym Fail Nation, or like one of
yeah,
those meme pages. You had promoted posts.
yeah,
I started like following your stuff, and I was like, wow, that's great. And all of a sudden, I don't remember when it was, but you're like, oh, you kind of started talking about how you were launching your own coaching business for fitness pros, and it was like when I started it and we had our first call, it's like, oh, okay, this will be, we'll see, dude. Like if you can help me with this and X, Y, and Z and get me to where I want to go, and you're so confident about it, I was like, okay, cool. And then like the first 2 months, I was like, oh, okay, this is like the gym launch. This is like the Alex Hormozy of online fitness pros coaching. And it shows, like, I'm sure you guys, I think I hear you talk about all the time, like you have a million most of your stuff is coming from referrals, right? Most of your people.
yeah. Like probably 40%, 50%.
It is. That's because you guys are doing such great work, and like from you and all the coachings on Tuesdays and just everything. The whole team is amazing. From Aiden Corby, rest in peace.
Yeah.
God, that guy is amazing. And the masterminds. Just I just want to say I appreciate you and appreciate if you guys are clients listening to this or future clients. Thank Charlie, because he's really helped me set up the systems to really help you guys and put the word out there enough for this company.
One thing I'd add into what you said there, um, and Alex Hormozy, you mentioned that was probably the fucking nicest thing you could have said to me, because I'm a massive fan. Is he talks about this a lot. Like level authority is the person who does the thing, who also teaches the thing. We do that in the business respect, but that's the same for you for fitness.
Yeah.
Like you're in good shape, you've helped loads of other people get in shape, you're helping more people get in shape. So like
Hmm.
when you go to someone like yourself for fitness, you go to me for business or ask for fitness, like you know you're going to have a good experience and you're going to do well because it's proof of concept.
Yeah.
So like if Dylan was really out of shape and looked like he'd never been to the gym in life, you probably gonna buy a fitness program, you probably shouldn't. And that's where like when you look in deep in people and you see people's habits, like you know, we talk a lot about working out, like you like the N1 stuff, like same as me. Like when people really live their passions and they actually care about helping people, they will be phenomenally good at what they do and their business will be great and you'll help thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, 100%. It's fun. I left you when you're like, I think when you're first building the podcast, your fitness business podcast, like you said in the beginning, I think you said rate, review, and I left a review and I put the Alex Hormozy of online business coaching because I was just like, and again, like I think I've worked with about probably 5 people, and we were
Yeah.
talking. You're like, seems like you worked with a lot of people and you still haven't
Yeah.
gotten to where you want to get to. And I was like, yeah, it's fucking sucks, right? And here we are 10 months later, and I'm finally pretty close to where I want to be and have had some record months thanks to you. So I really appreciate, everything. And, you're very inspiring. I think that's the coolest thing is like, I kind of look at you, Charlie, and kind of what you've accomplished and all that you do. And it's extremely inspiring. So thank you. Appreciate it.
What I say from that though is if someone else can do it, so can you. And it's the
Yeah.
same as like you being in great shape, you've got a beautiful family. People who listen to this who want to be in great shape and also have a beautiful family, like Dylan's done that, you can do that. So like there's no excuse to do what you want to do if someone else has done it.
100%. Why not you? Like, look at if you're listening to this, like, look at all the shit that you've overcome, the impressive stuff that you've done in your life, stuff that you're like, wow, I overcame all this stuff. Like, why not you? There's no reason that you cannot do something like this. You can't. There's no reason that you can't get in the shape that you want, that you can't have the family that you want, that you can't have the business you want, that you can't have the job you want. Like, you can for sure do this. It's just like you got to make it make sense.
Mm. And it's structure, routine, and having a vision and goal of what you want to do. And if you do that, it's easy.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing I got away from this is I need to start organizing my day so I'm not doing a million things at once.
That will change your life. It changed mine,
Yeah,
honestly. It
I
makes
know.
it's less stressful, you're more productive.
Yeah. Anything you want to leave off before we hop off here? I know I stretched our
Um,
time together and
no, that's right. Big thing I say is Dylan's a great coach. Listen to what he says, and he'll get you great
yeah,
results. If you want to listen to any of our podcasts, our business podcast, Physically Jack, Financially Stacked podcast, as Dylan mentioned, Charlie's 7 Figure Scaling Systems on YouTube, and then we have a fitness podcast as well, which is the Shredded Show,
yeah,
which you can find on YouTube and podcasts as well.
yeah. Shredded Show, you guys, that's been around for like 3 years, I want to say.
We've got like 400 episodes. There's a lot.
It's
I'm to
great.
the point where I'm running out of things to talk about a little bit on it because we've like
Yeah,
I've been around the
yeah.
houses a lot on that.
I fanboyed when I first saw your stuff on like the meme page, and I looked you
Yeah,
up on podcasts. I was like, oh shit, he's got like he actually knows what he's talking about, because you can't really tell if someone knows what they're talking about with like just posts like, oh, do this exercise, like here's a routine. It's like you knew and you started talking about peptides and nutrition and N1 training. I was like, oh shit, this guy like knows
yeah.
his stuff.
Well,
Um,
I'm passionate, same as you, right?
yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, man, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
And I hope everyone listening to this, I'm gonna put everything in the show notes, including Charlie's all 2 of your shows. I'll put the YouTube channel, the list of your morning
Yeah, I'll send it
biohacking
to you.
supplements. Yeah. But no, it's just this is great, man. I really appreciate you hopping on. I was honored that you were like, yeah, dude, I'll hop onto your podcast. I'm like, whoa, really? Like, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
awesome. Brilliant.